For decades, the United States has been called the land of opportunity. A place where talent could find a home, where scientists, engineers, and doctors from all over the world came chasing the so-called American dream. And in many ways, it was true. If you were smart enough, if you had a degree, if you could code or build or invent, America welcomed you. Through programs like the H-1B visa, thousands of skilled workers from India, China, Ukraine, and Europe entered the country each year. They filled the offices of Silicon Valley, the hospitals of New York, and the labs of Boston. Think about it, almost every major tech company in the US, Google, Microsoft, Apple, is filled with foreign-born talent. Some of their CEOs themselves were immigrants. Sundar Pichai of Google, Satya Nadella of Microsoft. Without these programs, without skilled workers, American innovation would look very, very different. But here's the shocking twist. The same system that once welcomed talent is now turning against it. America, once desperate to bring in brains from all over the world, is quietly preparing to deport or block the very same people it once invited. Why? On the surface, it seems strange. Why would a country push away the very workers who keep its economy alive? But if you look closer, the reasons start to unfold. Rising nationalism. Fear of job competition. The idea that Americans should have these jobs, not foreigners. And of course, politics. It didn't happen overnight. For years, immigration policy has been a battlefield in Washington. On one side, big tech companies and universities, begging for more visas, more international students, more global talent. On the other, politicians warning that foreign workers are stealing jobs from American citizens. And slowly, step by step, the tone began to shift. Rules got tighter. Visa approvals dropped. Renewal processes became a nightmare. Families who had lived in the US for 10, even 20 years suddenly faced the possibility of being sent back. Skilled workers who had bought houses, paid taxes, raised children, treated almost like intruders. For many, the American dream started to look like a trap. They built their lives in the US, but at any moment, a letter from immigration could end it all. And here's the irony, while America claims it wants to protect American jobs, many of these jobs wouldn't even exist without immigrant talent. Tech giants rely on programmers from India. Hospitals rely on doctors from abroad. Universities depend on international researchers. Yet, the system is turning on them. It's like America invited the world to a banquet, let them cook the meal, and now says, "Thank you, but please leave." In this first part of the story, we'll explore how the US built its empire on immigrant brains, how the visa system became a golden ticket, and why the same golden ticket is now being torn apart. Because behind the headlines, there's a darker truth: America no longer wants the skilled workers it once begged for. Now let's dive deeper into what's really happening today. For years, the H-1B visa program was the backbone of America's skilled immigration system. It allowed companies to bring in engineers, scientists, programmers, and doctors from all over the world. At its peak, more than 85,000 new visas were issued every year. That number may sound big, but compared to the demand, it was tiny. Hundreds of thousands applied, and only a fraction got in. But here's the problem: in recent years, the US government has been quietly changing the rules. What used to be a fairly straightforward process has now become a bureaucratic maze. Denial rates skyrocketed. Waiting times stretched from months to years. Some workers, even after living in America for decades, found themselves facing rejection letters. And then came the political shift. Under the Trump administration, the message was loud and clear: hire American. Suddenly, every visa application was treated with suspicion. Every renewal was questioned. Families who had been settled in the US for years started to live in fear that a simple paperwork issue could send them packing. But it didn't stop with Trump. Even under the Biden administration, where many expected things to get easier, the opposite happened. Processing times grew even longer. Caps on visas stayed frozen. And new policies began to emerge, policies that signaled something much bigger, a quiet move to reduce America's dependence on foreign workers altogether. For example, in 2024, lawmakers proposed new restrictions that would make it harder for tech companies to sponsor skilled workers. They argued that too many Americans are left behind while foreigners take high-paying jobs. Sound familiar? It's the same argument we've heard for years, but now it's gaining more power. And the scariest part? Deportation isn't just a distant threat anymore. In some states, skilled workers whose visas expired, even after living and paying taxes in America for decades, have been detained and forced to leave. Families torn apart. Careers destroyed. All in the name of protecting American workers. But here's the irony no one wants to talk about: America needs these people. The tech sector screams for more engineers. Hospitals are desperate for doctors. Universities beg for researchers. Yet the government acts like skilled immigrants are a problem to be solved, not a solution to be embraced. Behind the scenes, experts say it's all about politics. Restricting immigration looks good to voters. It sends the message, we're protecting your jobs. But in reality, it's a dangerous illusion. Removing skilled workers doesn't create jobs for average Americans, it destroys industries, slows down innovation, and makes the country weaker. Imagine this: thousands of engineers from India and Ukraine deported overnight. Who builds the apps? Who designs the chips? Who keeps hospitals running in rural towns where no American doctors want to go? That's the reality no one wants to face. Yet the movement is growing. More politicians are calling for stricter visa limits. More bills are being introduced that threaten to cut down skilled immigration even further. And all the while, families who thought they had a future in the US are packing their bags, unsure if tomorrow they'll still have the right to stay. This is not just policy. It's a silent purge. A slow, deliberate process to reshape America's workforce, by pushing out the very people who made it strong. And in the next part, we'll talk about what this means for the future. What happens to America if it keeps pushing away the brightest minds? Who wins if skilled workers leave? And could this be the end of the so-called American dream? So what happens if America continues down this path? What happens if the United States, the very country that built its dominance on immigrant brains, starts pushing them out? The first and most obvious consequence is simple: a brain drain in reverse. For decades, the US was the #1 destination for global talent. But if the doors close, that talent won't just disappear. It will go elsewhere. Europe, Canada, Australia, even back home to India, China, and Ukraine. And guess what? Those countries will benefit. They'll get the innovation, the startups, the scientific breakthroughs that could have been American. In fact, it's already happening. Canada has been openly recruiting skilled workers frustrated with the US visa system. Tech hubs in Toronto and Vancouver are booming with talent that once dreamed of Silicon Valley but gave up on waiting. Europe, too, is stepping up, offering fast-track visas to engineers and doctors. And in Asia, governments are pouring billions into their own tech industries, ready to welcome back citizens who once left for the US. The second consequence is economic. Without skilled immigrants, America simply won't have enough workers to fill the demand. Remember, the US population is aging fast. Millions of baby boomers are retiring. Who replaces them? Who keeps the economy running? If skilled workers leave, labor shortages will hit harder than ever. That means slower growth, higher prices, weaker industries. And then there's innovation. Think about this: more than half of all US startups worth over $1 billion were founded by immigrants. Half. That's not a coincidence. Immigrants bring ideas, energy, and a hunger to build something new. Deport them, and you don't just lose workers, you lose future Teslas, Googles, and Amazons. you lose the inventions that could define the next century. But here's the biggest danger: America risks losing its global leadership. For years, the US has been the center of the world's brightest minds. That's why Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley. That's why American universities dominate global rankings. But if talented people no longer feel welcome, they'll choose London, Berlin, Toronto, or Singapore instead. And once that shift happens, it's almost impossible to reverse. Some experts already warn that we're seeing the decline of the American dream. For decades, the dream was, go to the US, work hard, build a future. But if skilled workers keep getting deported, that dream becomes a nightmare. Who wants to risk building a life in a country that can take it away overnight? And here's the final twist: by pushing out skilled workers, America may actually be strengthening its rivals. Countries like China would love nothing more than to have American-trained engineers return home. Nations in Europe would happily accept doctors, scientists, and coders. What America throws away, others will pick up. So maybe the real shocking truth is this: the US isn't just deporting skilled workers. It's deporting its own future. Because without immigrant talent, without the global brains that fueled its rise, America risks becoming a shadow of what it once was. A country that turned opportunity into fear, and dreams into exile. And when history looks back, people may say, this was the moment America gave up its greatest advantage.